Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Build a Kingdom Part 2. Now, I was overwhelmed by the amount of entries we had in the plan thread, and some of these plans are really truly amazing. I didn't just look at the best, I looked at every single one, and I tried to get ideas about recurring themes across all the different various plans. Some of you spent a lot of time on these, and I'm afraid I couldn't show every single one that was entered. But here's a quick look at what was entered, some of the better ones that you'll see in the background. Some of the ones that I had a look at in greater detail, but apart from these ones in the background, there were a few that stood out, namely this entry by Templar Turn, who thought that our kingdom needed a Jaffa Cake superstore, and while he's right, I'm not sure it was the only thing we should have had. OTTO PLEMENITI had creative ideas about the shape of our church. This entry from Diffie's stood out from the crowd, a hand-drawn version of his plans of how he saw the kingdom. But the two that really stood out for me were these two by DIAMONDWOLF and BRANDEMAAN, who went into great detail, spent a lot of time on their plans. Now, those are my favourites, but the two that really stood out for me in terms of design and planning were these by Dolph and HARLANDGIRL, who kept with the recurring theme of a market and fountain right in the middle, and I liked some of the other ideas they had. But I was ready to go with that until I saw this entry from CONSTRICTA. A XXX casino right in the middle of our kingdom. That was it. I had an epiphany and decided to roll with it. Now check this out. Just kidding. A bit of a late April Fool's there for you guys. I hope you forgive me. But I couldn't resist dropping down a XXX casino just to see what it did look like in our kingdom. But I don't think it really has a place in our fantasy kingdom, and I hope you'll agree. What I've decided to go with for this first episode is a cathedral. Now, I like the idea of a market square and a fountain being in the middle of our city, but I thought on its own it would be kind of underwhelming, and I hope some of you guys are fans of the Assassin's Creed series. One of the things I picked up playing through some of the cities they've got in Assassin's Creed is that they have large cathedrals right in front of large market squares, and I thought, well, why can't we do that? That's a great way to kind of bring the focus in front of the cathedral to the market square and to centralize things. So that's what I've done. I've built a road out. As you can see, I've dug out a 3 by whatever road, put gravel down over it, and got a bit cheeky with World Edit here to get the gravel in, because you didn't want to see me just plonking down gravel. And then I laid down some foundations for what's going to be our cathedral. I'm using single stone slabs, as you'll remember from the towers you can see on the left. The main towers from the castle are built with the same material, these stone slabs. It works, and it's very flexible because it's a half block, so you can do all kinds of things when looking at window ledges and the like. So as you can see there, I'm building up the walls of this to a reasonable height. And here I am experimenting with a few different block types for the square in front. This is just a rough plot down of the market square. Ultimately, I think that's slightly small. I'll probably make it a bit more, a bit squarer, longer towards the center of the area that we've got to build. And but I decided, just to leave that for now and go back to the cathedral. I'm using a set of shaders for this video. You might see differences between this and the last graphically, including some errors, as you might have seen there. What this does is this adds dynamic shadows. As you can see, the shadows of the castle in the background scrolling over the land below as dawn approaches. Now, I want to know what you guys think of this shader, if I should continue using this, if you think it's an improvement graphically, or if you prefer me to go back to the previous graphical options that we used in the last Let's Build series and in the first Kingdom video. Here I am topping the four corners of our cathedral with, again, stone slab half blocks into peaks. I was a bit unsure, and honestly still am, about the use of this material because it is so similar to the blocks that we used to build the main building, I wasn't sure it would work. I wasn't sure if we actually needed more contrast there than we were giving ourselves by using the same block. But ultimately I went with it because I couldn't find a better alternative with the texture pack I was using, and wood just didn't feel quite right for the cathedral peak towers. Now this is a building I've never built before, and while I was building this was all in my head, plotted down, and some of the things that I tried just didn't work. Like for example this door. It was at ground level at first, but I thought no, I wanted to raise it up. I wanted to give some steps in the front to draw more focus, draw your eyes to the entrance and make it a bit more in your face. And I drew out stone brick supports here to the left and right to give us a little bit more structure, a little bit more variation, and a way to frame the windows that we're going to put into the cathedral eventually. The windows for the towers that you see on the corners, the left and the right there, I decided to stick with the design that I used with the castle, the main castle, you know, the kind of windows at the corners and at the sides. These towers are essentially still circles, so the concept still works, the basic concept of where the windows go, and it adds a bit of depth to the towers rather than having just sheer faceless walls. I wasn't entirely sure what I was doing with the corners of with the rim of the building at the top, as you see here. I put down some crenellations, but I wasn't entirely sure. I mean, crenellations are generally speaking something you'll see on a castle, because a castle is something you have to defend. The crenellation is structurally and practically simply a defense. You know, archers stand behind crenellations and move out to the gaps to fire. The guards that are defending a wall will use the crenellations just to hide from incoming missile attacks. But a cathedral isn't really going to be the kind of building to be attacked like that. It's a place of it's a holy place of worship. So crenellations are still there because I like the depth they give, but I haven't gone nuts with them. I've just kept them quite discreet and low profile. Here you see me adding the slight peak here on the roof, just to give it a little bit more variation, and to give us a way of presenting a window at the front. Now the design I've gone for with this cathedral, when I'm building a building like this, I always like to go onto Google, throw in the name of the building I'm looking for, which was cathedrals, and I took a look at some of the existing cathedrals in the world. I wanted to see anything that stood out, anything that I'd like to borrow for the idea of building my cathedral, and the one building that stood out was the Lincoln Cathedral. You'll be able to check that on Google if you wish, which had a basic four-corner building, but then two large towers in the middle, kind of a second tier of towers, and I really like the idea of that. However, the Lincoln Cathedral itself didn't have bells on show in the main towers, and that's something I really wanted. I wanted something striking at the top of the cathedral to draw your eye to it. And so what I've done is I've built these two towers and plonked a couple of bells right at the top to give it a bit more character. As you see me experimenting there with different block styles, because I haven't built this building before. Everything is just in my head, plotted down, and from time to time I was unhappy with things and I went back and changed them. I used gold blocks there for the bells. And here I am connecting up the roof. Because as a practical building, I like to build everything practically. You can go inside this building, walk around and get to everywhere in the building, and for that to happen I needed a way for you to get into these towers, and the best way for that seemed to be, for me, getting through the peak on the roof. Ultimately I wasn't happy with these lips that were given on the side of these towers, so I decided to remove them, but I kept the corner squares. And here you see me repeating the ideas that we had at the front of the building along the sides, just adding those windows and those ledges. I like the idea of skylights that we had for our main castle, so what I did as well is put in a few holes in the roof, filling them with glass blocks, just to give ourselves a little bit more light inside the building when it's daytime, and to make it a bit less flat and dull on top of the building. Once I'd finished that, it was time to put a floor down inside the building and start thinking about decorations inside, as well as fleshing out the windows and all the towers at the sides as well. Now, I was initially happy with this building, but as it went on, I realised I put a lot of detail into it, but it just wasn't very big. It wasn't very impressive. And I showed Sips, Maid and Zoe, and they all agreed that, Sjin, it's not big enough. It's a cathedral, you need to go bigger. And while I was tempted just to sit back and say, no, I've built it now, it's as it is, it was nagging me. So I went back and I added another floor, and I hope you'll agree that it needed it. And here is the finished building. The perfect figure piece, the crowning jewel for our kingdom, the cathedral. This is the first thing that people are going to see when they come into the kingdom, if they don't see the castle, that is. And so it had to be striking, it had to be big, and it had to be high. And I hope you'll agree that this is a fitting jewel for our crown. Once again, let me know what you think about the shaders that I've used, and if you like it, let me know in the comments. If you don't like it and you want me to revert back to a previous version, the graphics we were using for the previous video, then let me know, because I'm of two minds. And there we are. Now I'll jump into first person and give you a tour of the internals, the insides of this cathedral, and you can see what you think of the insides. Okay, so here we are at the cathedral. We don't have really have a name for this, perhaps the Cathedral of Light? Or is that borrowing too much from WoW? But here you go, here you see balconies, that cross in the background, enigmatic centerpiece to the cathedral, and the pews along the side here. Obviously up here, somewhere for our bishop, our holy person to stand and give a sermon and let you know the price of fish. Carry on up the stairs here. Let's take a look-see. And you see this is all hooked up, all plumbed in, all these stairs. So you can get everywhere you want to go. And should that be the top, you can go up there. I'll show you this way quickly. Up here, you can go all the way to the roof. But this will give you no access to the bell towers themselves. If you want to get to the bell towers, over the skylights you see here, if you want to get to the bell towers, I'm just going to drop down here. Whoops. And if you want to get to the bell towers, we have to take this wooden path up here. And this is the kind of attic space. And you go through either of these and take a ladder up. And here you go. Here is the golden bell of the bell tower. And you can see the castle off in the distance, shadowed out by fog. So that's been Let's Build Part 2. I hope you've enjoyed watching me build this cathedral. I hope it's given you some ideas. Now, I will be uploading the map. Once I finish my kingdom, I'll be uploading the map so that you guys can take a look around this kingdom that you've helped me build with all your plans and all your efforts. But if you want to catch up with me, you've got quite a task ahead of you. But if you go to Let's Build number 4 for my castle, you'll be able to download the map of the castle and fill in your own walls and cathedral. Although that's a massive task, and I don't recommend that. But should you wish to, the option's there. So I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Next episode we'll be filling something else in. I'm not quite sure yet. The reason we started with the cathedral is because the biggest building has to take precedence, and we need space for it, and we work from the biggest building down to the smallest. We'll start with the big cathedral and the other big buildings, and then we'll work on the incidentals, the smaller things in between. So I've been Sjin, thanks a lot, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.